adapting the original source material into a different medium, whether it would be movies, TV shows, games, etc., tends to be a very risky move to pull it off. You either end up making the most faithful and phenomenal adaptations of all time, or you could be the live-action Cowboy Bebop.
Spy!
What is that noise?
Spy!
We got bagels! Poor adaptations tend to stick out like a sore thumb. For the original fans of the source material, watching your favorite thing being adapted poorly is like witnessing the most horrifying thing anyone has laid their eyes on. For example, you have The Hobbit. A short story, especially compared to the Lord of the Rings books, was stretched out to be a trilogy. Naturally, that turned out to be a bad idea. With constant changes during productions, Peter Jackson, who directed the Lord of the Rings trilogy, was frustrated with the movies, and you can clearly tell that by watching the behind the scenes clips for the trilogy. Not to mention the constant green screens that they had to deal with. It was so bad that the actor that played Gandalf cried about it, which I can relate to. Green screens fucking sucks.
What the fuck?
And they ended up making a trilogy that was clearly meant to be one movie, disappointing fans and all. Another example is World War Z, a generic zombie type movie that is completely different from the book that it was trying to adapt. The reason for this was because the movie had gone through the same issues as The Hobbit. Production issues with the scripts, Brad Pitt and the director refusing to talk to each other,
I really wish I weren't here right now.
and the author just kind of witnessing the carnage unfold.
And the movie and the book really don't have a lot in common. They got a great title.
And then we have the video game adaptations having a bad reception for being poorly made in general. With books, it's at least simple to adapt them into a different medium. All you are working with is a bunch of text, and you could easily adapt it with a few changes here and there. Video games tend to be much longer than anything, with some games even reaching 100+ hours. And trying to cram that much into a 2-hour movie would not work. That's why games with a ton of stories tend to be adapted into shows, as it can allow to flesh out the story. Hell, nowadays game adaptations have received well, at least some of them, but back then a lot of people genuinely thought that they had a curse of just being bad. From the 1993 Mario movie that has the same issues with World War Z, production issues with even the main cast of Mario and Luigi being drunk on set, which sounds like the funniest shit ever. Oh, and also the movie being nothing like the games.
Monkey!
To anything being made by Uwe Boll,
All fucking each other.
a German director that makes infamously shitty adaptations of video games, with him only making them for a tax write-off. Are taxes really that bad? This motherfucker enjoys the hate anyway. I shit you not, he tried to fight the people who criticized his work in a boxing match. You can't make this shit up.
Most prolific filmmakers out there. Yes, he's shit, but...
And unfortunately, a game series that has the worst track record for game adaptations has to go to...
Resident Evil.
It's arguably the best horror game series of all time, and making adaptations for the series seems like a no-brainer of an idea, especially how some of the games feels like a B-movie, in like a good way at least.
I told you, don't worry. I'll just go and get some fresh air and be eaten by a monster.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Caught myself a big one.
Sadly, however, the series keeps getting the worst shit they could have ever imagined. You have the Paul W.S. Anderson's movies where they take a much more action approach and follows an original character that's being played by the director's wife. I mean, to be honest, I can't blame him.
It should have been me, not him!
Top that off with the series making some odd decisions, like having Nemesis, who is the scariest enemy in the series, do a fist fight with the main character and loses.
Loser! You're a loser!
They kept making so many batshit insane stuff to the point where the final chapter is not only the worst video game adaptations ever, with it looking so ugly and the editing tries to give me a heart attack, but also it was a middle finger for the games and the story that they made in the first place. Wow, what a way to go out with! Naturally, some fans hated these movies because they were nothing like the games, and a random executive noticed this and decided in 2021 to release a Resident Evil movie that is far apart from the Anderson movies and focuses on making the most fateful thing ever. It was almost as bad as the final chapter. Remember when I made a video about how I was disappointed with the DLC for Security Breach? That disappointment does not compare to my utter hollow feeling to Welcome to Raccoon City. At least with Ruin, the DLC itself was okay. This one ended up being a massive mess for me and every RE fan. First of all, some lunatic thought it was a good idea to adapt two big games into one movie. Naturally, it was a stupid fucking idea and ends up making the movie half-baked, especially with the characters. Jill could have been cut from the movie and nothing would have changed. The runtime is almost 2 hours long, but it feels like it is 30 minutes due to how rushed the movie feels. When the movie ended, I was like, that's it? It just ended out of nowhere, and I was so confused because the ending was so unsatisfying. Finding out that they cut a lot of stuff for the movie, such as enemies being removed due to budget cuts and removing characters that were meant to be in the movie like Barry and Rebecca, really explains everything. Second of all, some of the decisions that they have made were beyond delusional. So we have Lisa Trevor from RE Remake. In the games, her backstory is one of the most heartbreaking things in the series. It's gut-wrenching learning the story of an enemy you fight throughout the game, and just shows you how disgusting Umbrella corporations can be towards anyone. Lisa in this movie has a fight scene with the liquor. It's the Nemesis shit all over again! Another bizarre decision is making Chris and Claire orphans. The reason for this is to connect to William Birkin as he was taking care of them when they were kids. This doesn't add anything due to how useless it is, and making them connected to William Birkin feels like a wasted potential to, you know, expand on it. And no, that random Code Veronica scene doesn't count. There's like a lot of references in this movie, which is fine on its own, but it feels like they give more screen time to it than the characters themselves. To bring a comparison to this decision, I want to mention the FNAF movie. It did something similar to this by making Vanessa related to Afton instead of Mike, as he was in the games. The big difference is that with the context of what the movie tries to tell, this change makes sense and it weirdly fits perfectly. In the games, Vanessa and Afton aren't related, but they have dealt with these two from Help Wanted 1 to so far Help Wanted 2. At the very least, I'm glad the movie wasn't trying to be a lore dump and tried to do its own thing without making any stupid decisions. Anyway, my point is that FNAF did the change well, while Raccoon City did it poorly and nonsensical. If I had to say some nice things about it, this movie looks decent and my favorite scene is the funniest shit ever. But overall, this was a massive disappointment to me. Everyone got sick of live-action Resident Evil stuff, especially after the Netflix TV show one.
Thinking about the way I was that the heartbreak changed me.
What? It got cancelled? No way! So yeah, there are a lot of poor adaptations out there, and I could go on. Believe me, I could make this video 5 hours long. But I'm saving that energy for another video I'm working on right now. And I have one more bad adaptations that I wanted to talk about. An adaptation so bad that it makes me confused as to what happened behind the scenes. And it's not a book adaptation, nor a video game one, but a creepypasta one. And it's called...
Oh shit, it's a white guy!
in the old days of the internet, there was a popular trend in the late 2000s/early 2010s, which was called creepypasta. They are basically short horror stories that can be written by anyone, and I mean by anyone.
I remember what the image looked like in that split second before the game cut to black. The sky had darkened. The title emblem was rusted and ruined. The Sega 1991 was now instead Sega 666. The water had turned red, like blood, except it looked hyper-realistic.
This stuff for real.
These were viral back then, with classics like Ben Drowned, Jeff the Killer, Smile Dog, and Slender-man. This character was created by Eric Knudsen, I hope I pronounced that right, on a Something Awful forum site, with this infamous image of Slender-man. All that's known about him is that he kidnaps kids and looks like a tall, pale, faceless monster that wears a fancy little suit, to be honest. What got him a lot more popular with the character were two things: Marble Hornets, a web series on YouTube, and the Slender game. At the rise of Let's Plays, everyone made videos on the game. The premise of it is that you collect 8 pages while trying to get away from Slender-man. Now the game itself did have some problems, with it looking like shit and also being really slow, but it made Slender a lot more popular, with the game even getting a better sequel. It felt like Slender took over the internet for a while, but eventually it would die out quickly. A ton of people thought he wasn't scary anymore, with the fact that fans of Slender-man started to make a use towards the character, which ranges from "here's Slender but happy" to even we don't talk about that. You also have the stupid 3 AM challenges with Slender-man.
Trying to unmask Slender-man at 3 AM. How's that?
The character itself even had an awful public view due to the Slender-man stabbing that occurred. Soon the character slowly faded into obscurity. Then they released a movie adaptation in 2018. Now, there have been other Slender-man movies before this, with one even talking about the stabbing incident. All of them received poorly, and this one is no exception. Now, I have seen this movie just for this video, and yeah, it's bad. Now, I never expected them to make the story like the stabbing incident that occurred, because that would be strange for them to do that. So, of course, they opted to do something different, and they fucked it up.
God damn it!
First of all, I can't see shit during the night scenes. What maniac in the post-production made the scenes look like this? Especially in the forest scenes. There is this jump scare where someone is inside of the house, but you can barely see anything in there, so it leaves the audiences confused as to what the fuck happened. Oh, speaking of which, the jump scares are annoying, and half of them doesn't make any sense. Like, how was that supposed to be a jump scare? The fact that the FNAF movie has fewer jump scares than this movie is kind of insane to me. Also, check this shit out. There is this weird scene where after Kate disappears, her drunk dad breaks into her friend's house and tries to attack them as he thinks they had a play into the disappearance. Now, what I find strange about this is that after he was rightfully arrested, the next day he just goes back to his house? He broke into their house and tried to attack underage girls. He should be in court for that shit. Notice that I didn't mention Slender-man yet? Yeah, he's barely in the movie. Not to mention that you can't even see him well 98% of the time. I know that showing the threat less would make the scenes a lot more scary, but when you are working with a faceless monster and the fact that they fucked up the night scenes, I can safely say that they did my boy dirty. Sucks for the guy who played him. He seemed to have fun playing the character. When the trailer came out, I was wondering about that one scene where one of the main characters uses a scalpel to fluster. It was shocking when I saw it back then. It's not in the movie. They cut that scene in the final movie and she never gets mentioned again. Hell, the guy with the funny jump scare was meant to commit the assault, but they cut it. Now, why you may ask? So they can, I guess, try to hit PG-13? Bitch, please. Indiana Jones showed in Zistan face getting melted, and that movie was rated PG back in the day. Anyway, this movie sucks.
Trash.
Oh man, is it really that hard to adapt a fucking creepypasta? It's a creepypasta. This movie is so bad that I got this stupid haircut after watching it. Don't watch this movie if you care about your haircut. My god, what studio approved of this movie? I really need to know.
It's morbid time.
You're gonna love it. In fact, I think you're gonna see it twice.
Well, guess I will die. Guess I'll die.